here to keep you dry, man. No problem.
Don't mind me. It's your umbrella.
Yeah. Like perched over her chair, like.
Don't worry about it. I'm just here.
I'm just your personal human umbrella.
You do your thing.
It's for the cause. Don't worry about me.
Are you thirsty?
Start like dripping
It's
on
right
me.
like grimy.
Yeah.
They should just push over the chairs.
Yeah, there's some
Okay.
room.
Well, because those wouldn't get wet.
One of those chairs is hers. I think we should probably switch chairs.
Slightly, yeah.
I'm assuming not.
Oh my god, I feel like someone's gone. Okay, agenda. That's like more than
I pity girls that like spend like 3 or 4 hours cleaning their
No.
shit. I'm just,
Oh my god. I like the people who are sitting like so sad.
Yeah, they're being tough by being like, I'm not, but they're also getting curling.
There's Ted that has one.
the tallest. Can you imagine you pick the short one?
Okay, I'll be back.
That is hilarious. He's being British, though?
Okay, guys, we're gonna replace chair. Everybody out.
Careful.
Yeah, water on the chair, water on the head. Careful.
So, you know how the artwork before said everything that you go to the week, then the winner outdoors? That's how we did it. That's how we did it before. Now we're playing. So
Everyone move that. You're in here. What's your rate? You're in the second chair. That's it. Right there, Dave?
We don't have a mat for anything, do we?
I'm just floating around.
We don't have a mat for anything.
Yeah, no, I like talking.
This one.
no, it's pretty pretty.
Well, that's good.
I'll fix it in about 2 seconds anyway. Yeah, but see, we got a little bit more. That's good. Lovely. Now you can judge over there because you can hear it reverberating. What do they got?
this for a minute? This is my pay grade. And I or a volunteer will be standing here with an umbrella over your head.
We're going to need a towel because she's going to have papers. All of it will have papers. So
Is it?
that's why I said very long. For me, that was long.
Debbie?
Yeah.
Can you hold that? Want me to hold it? No, no.
One second. Good morning. Testing 1, 2, 3.
So he's going to be holding this umbrella over whoever. So I don't know, let's just play.
So, you want me to hold it there? Yeah.
Here.
That's soaked.
Where should he
And
stand?
the mic is on just so everybody knows.
Yeah. Where should he stand, do you think? Can you go, like, I don't want him to be too short, but can stand down here for a sec.
See how tall you are. Okay, mic's on.
Okay. When you want me to start? Because I don't want her here.
Maybe he should stand behind. It just looks a little awkward right there. So maybe stand up here, Ruth or Ruth?
Yes.
Is that Ruth? Ruth? Let me double check with, you have to keep the umbrella straight. And I'll look like you're at attention now. Heels together. And put your hand almost behind him so that it's, you might have to adjust for the different people, the heights of different people, but yeah, that's okay.
Well, I don't stand here and get totally wet.
So the microphone has to stay dry, or
Pardon?
the microphone has to stay dry?
Yeah.
Okay. See the opposite ropes? See the guy behind them? When they come up here, you just step to the side. And they'll take the umbrella from you, okay? Okay? We'll let it straight up and stop. Okay? Put it now, put it over your own head and relax. Well, no, they probably want to keep
The microphone.
it dry. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Dave Wells, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today's ceremony. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is in traditional Mi'kmaq territory, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit peoples of this province. The purpose of today's ceremony is to dedicate this magnificent commemorative marker by sculptor Morgan MacDonald. The sculpture is, of course, a replica of the original tree which stood in no man's land and has become a poignant symbol for the members of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. And the soldier was modeled on the likeness of Private Hugh Walter McWhorter of the Hummermouth area of Cornerbrook, who was the first casualty of the Newfoundland Regiment. And today we have his great-nephew, James McWhorter, with us today. Welcome. I would also like to acknowledge that we have our Silver Cross mothers with us today. Mrs. Debbie Pinkson, mother of Corporal Brian Pinkson, and Mrs. Agnes Bishop, mother of Sergeant Craig Gillum. Both soldiers were killed in action in Afghanistan. Welcome here. Of course, we are here today because of the vision and generosity of the Forget-Me-Not Committee. Under the stellar leadership of Dave Higdon, the group conceived the idea of a First World War memorial for the Grenfell campus of Memorial University and committed their planning and fundraising efforts to realize the magnificent sculpture installation you see before you here. Another symbol that has taken on great significance is the Forget-Me-Not flower, worn as a sign of remembrance for the war dead dating back to the Great War. Many of you received a flower this morning. Thank you to Ms. Goody Hutchings, Member of Parliament for the Long Range Mountains, who donated these lovely symbols of remembrance. Before we begin the official portion of the dedication ceremony, just a little housekeeping business. You should have received a commemorative booklet detailing today's ceremony. The booklet contains the names of the more than 1,600 soldiers who gave their lives during the First World War. The images you'll see ghosted in the background were provided by the Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Archives and Friends of the Forget-Me-Not campaign. We are anticipating the arrival of Her Royal Highness momentarily. Those of you attending the presentation of the new colors at 1 p.m. will be guided to the gymnasium by our volunteer ushers. We ask that you remain here until after Her Royal Highness and the stage party depart the installation site. Also at this time, I would like to remind you that cell phones and photography are prohibited during the dedication ceremony, so please turn them off and tuck them away until after Her Royal Highness and the stage party depart the site. I'll ask you to remain seated until Her Royal Highness arrives, which should be momentarily. Drenched. Please rise for the arrival of Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, the royal salute, and the singing of our national anthem. Colonel Bond. Your Royal Highness, Your Honors, Premier Ball, Ms. Hutchings, Mr. McKay, Dr. Kachanowski, Dr. Bluchart, Mayor Pender, Chief Brendan Mitchell, Chief of the Hullapu Mi'kmaq Band, Mr. Dave Higdon, veterans, members of the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment and the Royal Newfoundland Regimental Band, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for this very special occasion. It is my great honor to invite Her Royal Highness Premier Ball and Mr. Higdon to unveil the dedication plaque. The dedication plaque reads, "This artist's rendition of the iconic Danger Tree, a replica of which stands vigil in the Newfoundland War Memorial Park near Beaumont-Hamel, France, salutes the determination of a generation of young men of the Dominion of Newfoundland, whose blood was spilled 100 years ago. The soldier approaching the tree, as so many did on that fateful morning of July the 1st, 1916, is a reminder of the service and sacrifice of more than 1,600 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who answered the call and laid down their lives during the First World War. This unique commemorative marker was donated to GrenfellCampus, Memorial University." Can't get the page. It is here to remember the fallen and commemorate the heroes, sculptured by Newfoundlander Morgan MacDonald and unveiled today by Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, June the 29th, 2016. We will now have a photo opportunity. Princess Royal, Premier and Mr. Higman. Got it? Sorry, my pages were stuck together. Thank you, Your Royal Highness, Premier Ball and Mr. Higman. I will now ask the Canadian Forces Chaplain, Brigadier General Guy Champ-Delaine, to come forward and to say a blessing.
Creator of life and sustainer of all, you have created this beautiful world and all that lives in it. The lilies of the field, the trees whose branches and leaves provide shade and shelter in summer, and whose changing colors in the fall bring joy to the eye and delight to the heart. Today we dedicate this commemorative marker in memory and thanksgiving for all those who pass by a tree like this one in Beaumont-Hamel so many years ago now. A tree that stripped of her beautiful foliage by the weapons of war became a landmark of life and of death. We give you thanks for their lives laid down for one another, for their nation, and for the cause they serve in the great war across the sea. May this commemorative marker of the danger tree reminds us always of this, their sacrifice, even as we are called in our own time and place into service one to another, to our dear country, and to those values of peace together with justice upon which our nation is formed. This we pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain General. Please be seated. I will now invite His Honor, the Honorable Frank Fagan, Lieutenant Governor, Newfoundland and Labrador, to bring greetings.
Your Royal Highness, Premier Ball, Dr. Kachanowski, Dr. Fouchard, members of the regiment, distinguished guests. I am pleased to be here today to help mark this meaningful occasion, the dedication of the Danger Tree installation at this Grenfell campus of Memorial University. I am sure you will agree that having Her Royal Highness, the Royal Newfoundland Regiment's Colonel-in-Chief, with us today makes this occasion even more significant. The Danger Tree installation, as you've heard, is a representation of what was originally a copse of trees located about halfway into no man's land. Continuous artillery bombardment eventually stripped the area, leaving nothing but a broken-down tree trunk. The battered tree was used as a landmark by the Newfoundland Regiment during infantry assaults. Ironically, the very place that was used as a gathering point for the Newfoundland troops, a place highly visible to their adversaries, also resulted in many tragic deaths. This Danger Tree replica before us today and the lone soldier, seen here seemingly in mid-stride in the midst of war, were created, as you heard, by sculptor Morgan MacDonald, and will now stand as a permanent reminder of the losses suffered by the people of this province. On behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, I would like to take this opportunity to thank members of the Corner Brook Forget-Me-Not Committee for their dedication to this wonderful project. Thanks to the generous donation to the Memorial University community and to the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador, we now have another means, a place of reflection and calm to commemorate those who have made the supreme sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please welcome the Honorable Dwight Ball, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Dave, Your Royal Highness, Your Honors, and all those that are out to share this afternoon with us, and especially our military personnel and all the special guests. Thank you for coming out. It is indeed an honor to bring greetings today on behalf of the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador. And once again, thank you for this opportunity, but a very special thank you for the Forget-Me-Not Committee for this generous and remarkable gift to to Memorial University of Newfoundland, and indeed to all the people of our province. In less than 48 hours, we will mark the 100th anniversary of the historic Battle of the Somme at Beaumont Hamel. And it is fitting that we are commemorating these events and their place in our history as they continue to shape our province today. The Honor 100 program, which was established in 2014 and continues on to 2018, was designed to reconnect Newfoundlanders and Labradorians with their past and to educate future generations about the sacrifices of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians made during the First World War. The Great War was a defining time in our history of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a story of courage, perseverance, and a sense of pride. Honor 100's purpose is to commemorate Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, their war story, mark the significant anniversaries, and infuse into future generations the true meaning of sacrifice and service. The program encompasses 5 areas: the anniversaries, the legacy, education, provincial outreach, and research and development. The program was supported, highlights the reformation of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, the march of the first 500 to the Florissel, the contributions of the Women Patriotic Association, and remember the stories as they gathered in the ballroom of Government House to knit socks for men who had served in the Newfoundland Regiment. And of course, something very special to me was the efforts of Private Thomas Ricketts, the Victoria Cross winner, of course. These are just to name a few of these initiatives. As mentioned, the Danger Tree installation now sits at GrenfellCampus as a stark reminder of Newfoundland and Labrador's immense contribution to First World War, and it will continue as we reflect on the meaning of sacrifice and those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. So thank you very much, and once again, thank you very much to the Forget-Me-Not Committee for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier Ball. I will now call upon Ms. Goody Hutchings, Member of Parliament for the Long Range Mountains, to bring greetings on behalf of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Your Royal Highness, Your Honors, Premier, my colleague John McKay, and other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course all our regiment friends. I'm very honored to bring greetings today on behalf of the Government of Canada and our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. When Britain entered the First World War on August 4th, 1914, Newfoundland, which was then a British dominion, was suddenly at war. At a time when great pride was taken in being part of the British Empire, the people of Newfoundland reacted willingly and enthusiastically to the news of the war. Almost 1,000 young men signed up to join the newly created Newfoundland Regiment by late September of 1914. However, less than 2 years later, on July 1st, 1960, the Newfoundland Regiment went over the top, as we've all heard, at Beaumont Hamel. It was the first day of the Battle of Somme and the regiment's first major engagement of that war. As we heard today, the Danger Tree was the ill-fated marker of the deaths of these men who were severely exposed to enemy fire. Of the 780 men who took part that day, only 110 came out. The Government of Canada will mark the 100th anniversary of these battles with signature commemorative ceremonies at the Beaumont Hamel Newfoundland Memorial in France, the Courcelette Canadian Memorial in France, and the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa. And of course, there will be many, many events throughout our province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And here in Corner Brook, those of us here today and those who will visit the Danger Tree area on GrenfellCampus in the years to come will be moved by the legacy to those Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who served so valiantly in the First World War. On behalf of the Government of Canada, thank you to the Forget-Me-Not Committee for their perseverance, extreme perseverance, and dedication to keep the memory of these soldiers alive. And a very thank you to you, Your Royal Highness, for being part of this special day. The Battle of Beaumont-Hamel was a defining moment in Newfoundland history. Through this commemorative marker, we will remember the courage and sacrifice of these soldiers. Our nation owes them eternal gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. Now, please welcome Dr. Kachanowski, President and Vice Chancellor of Memorial University, to bring greetings on behalf of the university.
Your Royal Highness, Your Honors, Honorable Premier, Ministers, distinguished veterans, and guests. On behalf of the entire Memorial University community, it is an honor and privilege to welcome you to GrenfellCampus, to host this commemorative event today, and to accept this most generous gift of the Danger Tree Sculpture installation from the Forget-Me-Not Committee. Our memorial community is also so pleased to welcome Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, and I thank her for dedicating this most important installation of remembrance. One of the most important institutions in this province, Memorial University College, was established in 1925 as a living memorial to the fallen in the Great War and rededicated in subsequent conflicts, so that, to use the words taken from our university memorial wall, in freedom of learning, their cause and sacrifice might not be forgotten. So we are so pleased now to have a unique reminder of this special heritage here on our Grenfell campus. From this distinctive origin, our university has inherited a duty to remember. And since becoming a degree-granting institution in 1949, Memorial has been actively pursuing its special obligation to the people of this great province. This dedication today reaffirms our ongoing responsibility, a responsibility to fulfill the aspirations of those who founded Memorial University College, to be the living legacy of those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom, and through that, support the advancement of our society through education. As we mark the 100th anniversary of the First World War period, and in particular Beaumont-Hamel 2 days from now, we remind ourselves of this legacy, and that through teaching, research, and public engagement, our university, the Memorial University, works towards a better future. So thank you once again to the Forget-Me-Not Committee for this inspiring installation by Morgan MacDonald. It will be a tangible reminder of our roots and a powerful symbol of remembrance. And thank you to everyone here for joining us for this important dedication ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kachanowski. I would now like to call upon His Worship Charles Pender, Mayor of Corner Brook.
Good morning, Your Royal Highness, Your Honors, Premier Ball, distinguished guests, and residents of Corner Brook. It's an honor to represent the city of Corner Brook at today's ceremony. This is a significant day as we commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Beaumont-Hamel conflict during the First World War. Today is a day to honor veterans, to be able to remember and never forget the lessons and sacrifices of the past that bring us to where we are today. We want to thank the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, the Forget-Me-Not Committee, for the vision and installation of the Danger Tree, and Memorial University for providing a space for reflection. The Danger Tree is an extension of the memorials in our city that allow people to pay tribute, remember the fallen, and honor those who have served. In front of our City Hall, statues represent soldiers from 2 historical periods at our Remembrance Square. One statue depicts a Royal Newfoundland Regiment soldier from the First World War, the other showing a soldier in Afghanistan. Additionally, we have a replica of the caribou and plaques recently installed to honor the bravery and sacrifices of those men and women who have served our country. This new site will allow everyone an opportunity to honor and remember the fallen of the Battle of July 1st, 1916. It represents the significance of the events of Beaumont-Hamel as an enduring symbol of valor
and as a defining moment in Newfoundland's history. On this day, we will remember with honor and pride those who served for our province and our country, the fallen, and offer our support to those who still serve. On behalf of the City of Corner Brook, I thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pender. Now I'd like to call upon Mr. Dave Higdon, Chair of the Forget-Me-Not campaign.
Good day. A warm Newfoundland welcome to Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, Lieutenant Governor Fagan, Premier Ball, Members of Parliament Hutchings and McKay, President Dr. Ketchinowski, and the Mayor Pender, and especially the family and friends of those of the fallen heroes who we commemorate today. As the chair of the Forget-Me-Not Committee, I am proud to unveil this latest of our memorials sculpted by the talented Newfoundlander Morgan MacDonald. Given the passion of a team of dedicated volunteers through the vision of Morgan MacDonald, we were able to bestow this gift to GrenfellCampus Memorial University. As of today, GrenfellCampus will be the only site uniting the names of all 1,612 men and women who gave their lives of the Dominion of Newfoundland. We hope this iconic symbol of pride and loss will ensure that such a key moment in Newfoundland's history will not be forgotten for the future generations. Since beginning our campaign to remember the fallen and commemorate a hero, many of you today have accepted the challenge and sponsored soldiers. And for you, we are very thankful. However, our work is not done. There are soldiers, merchant marines, foresters, seamen, and voluntary aid members who have not yet been sponsored. Please help and ensure that one day, in a not-so-distant future, all these 1,612 names will have their own home in the hearts and memories of every community in Newfoundland and Labrador. Before I leave you today, I would like to end with an excerpt from Rupert Brooke's The Dead. Blow out your bugles over the rich dead. There's none of these so lonely and poor of old, but dying has made our gifts rarer than gold. These lay the world away, pour the red, sweet wine of youth, gave up the years to be of work and joy, and the unnoted serene, that men can of old age and those who would have been their sons have gave immortality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Higdon. I guess we know who's really in charge. It's the man upstairs. I would like to invite Her Royal Highness and the rest of the stage party to place a forget-me-not flower at the base of the tree, which will be followed by a group photo. We will now read the names of the fallen. Thank you. We're very pleased that Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal will now do the walkabout inside because of the inclement weather. And the veterans will meet her there. Reception with the Royal Highness, you are asked to make your way to the Arts and Science Atrium at this time. Again, I remind you that cell phone photography and cell phones are not permitted. Please remain standing as the 2nd Battalion and Royal Newfoundland Regiment departs. We will now have the playing.
James Carroll, Solomon Clark,
Soaked.
John Cody, William Cody, John Collier, Ward Collier, Richard Collins, Charles Cook, Harold Cook, John Cunningham, Andrew Devereaux, Henry Dix, John Dodd, James Dooley, Michael Dooley, Andrew Driscoll, Albert Duffett, William Eason, Alfred Avis, Morgan Avis, Thomas Avis, Hubert Evans, John Evans, James Joseph Beaver, Richard Fleming, William Furneaux, James Green, Robert Green, Silas Hatfield, Eli Hancock, Albert Hand, Fred Hand, Charles Hart, John Hatcher, Eli Hawkins, James Hearn, Patrick Hearn, Chester Hickman, Edmund Hiscott, William Hodnott, Arthur Howell, Thomas Howell, Hubert Hall, Stuart Hall, Robert Hunt, Joseph Ingram, James Ivan, Edgar Keene, William Kenny, Patrick Kirby, Howard Knott, Frederick Lambert, William Leonard, Sebos Lewis, Arthur License, Sobey Mackay, James McLaughlin, Clem McManus, Harry Mullins, Ralph Neal, E. Newhook, John Knoftel, Edward Noseworthy, William O'Neill, Richard Owen, Eli Peddle, Cornelius Pender, Sim Kenny, H.N. Pappas, Henry Porter, John Powell, Frederick Rowe, Albert Ryan, John Sheehan, Stephen Shute, Noah Smith, Thomas Scrappin, John Stewart, Peter Stewart, Ward Strickland, John Sutton, Augustus Taylor, Jose de la Cruz Torres, John Turpin, Michael Walsh, Patrick Walsh, George Weber, Hubert Wells, John White, Thomas White, Andrew Wilson Jr., Andrew Wilson Sr.,
My phone is dead.
John Thomas Adams, James Anderson, Alexander Ayers, William T. Babstock, Arthur Baggs, George Barber, Enos Barnes, Herbert B. Barnes, Leonard Joseph Bennett, Peter Benoit, James John Benoit, Joseph H. Benoit, Victor Joseph Benoit, John Thomas Berrigan, Alan London, Harry Cooper Burden, Albert Brace, William James Brace, George Philip Gray, George Benton, Allison Princeton, Leslie Princeton, Edmund Brown, Edward Brine, John Burridge, Jacob Bussey, David Butler, Llewellyn Butler, Peter Butler, William Butler, Frederick James Butt, U. Daniel Campbell, Jack Chaffee, William Henry Chaffee, Alexander Chalk, Ronald Chalk, James Clark, Albert Cluett, Timothy Francis Cody, George Coates, Harold Coates, Adam Coles, Jeremiah Conway, Thomas Copley, Francis Thomas Crocker, Stanley Crocker, William Cross, Elijah Colmore, Versailles Cumby, James Patrick Curran, William Henry Dodd, Timothy Delaney, Stephen Dicker, William Gerald Dwyer, Gilbert Dyke, John Walker Dyke, Walter Emberley, Joseph Farewell, John Fallow, Zembiel Fallow, Ephraim Freak, William Freak, William Gilbert, Thomas Jim, Nathaniel Googan, Eldred Goss, Walter Goss, Barton Green, James Greening, Richard U. Hall, Albert Howell, Alan Hancock, Patrick J. Hennessy, John Hibbs, John Hiscock, Samuel Mayo Hooper, Edgar Hoskins, Edward Ewing, James Hunt, Thomas Hurley, James Walker Hines, Thomas Jackson, John James, Levi Jarrett, William Jones, Thomas J. Cavanaugh, William Keogh, Albert Kelly, William King, William Kirby, Thomas Knight, Anthony Joseph Land, George Huzzy LeGrew, Charles Lewis, Philip Lewis, James Albert Mahaney, Leo Joseph Madden, Walter March, Alexander Martin, Sylvester Martin, Patrick John McKay, John B. Mercer, Fred Miller, George H. Miller, Harold Miller, Walter W. Morey, Frederick Morgan, John Thomas Morgan, William Morgan, Walter Morris, Jacob Mugford, Nathan Mugford, Lawrence Murphy, James Murray, William Henry Murrin, Patrick O'Brien, John Joseph Ogden, Edward O'Keefe, Gerald A. Osmond, Augustus Percival Park, John Parson, Archibald W. Peach, Henry W. Peach, Joshua Wesley Peach, William H. Peach, Jacob Piercy, Alec Kettle, Robert Phillips, Charlie A. Piercy, Edward Perraway, Francis Pike, Randall Anthony Pike, Archibald J. Pitcher, Joshua Porter, John Joseph Power, Frederick Joseph Price, Harold Heber Prince, William Puddicombe, Charles Ralph, Frederick Randall, Loyal Randall, Ralph Randall, John Reeder, Ray Maxwell Roberts, Simeon Rogers, James Rose, Charles Rowe, Charles Saunders, Alan Daniel Sevier, F. Eugene Simmons, Edward Smart, Agdor Smith, Luke Smith, Stephen Smith, Randall Joseph Snow, Herbert Somerton, Samuel Sparks, Stephen Sparks, Eli Sparks, E.J. Sprackling, Walter J. Spurl, Richard J. Squires, William St. Croix, Harold A. Stanley, Douglas Steve, Edward Stone, George Allison Strange, Walter Strickland, George String, Eric Francis Taylor, Edward Tilley, Melvin Tedford, Thomas Joseph Truscott, Dennis Tucker, John Charles Tucker, Douglas Walsh, Albert J. Warren, Jonas Watkins, Daniel Wells, Simeon Whalen, Thomas J. Whalen, Arthur E. White, Eric Gordon Woodward, William M. Woolridge, Clement Yetman, George Uden, Thomas Uden, Edward Young, Wallace Young, Arthur John Abbott, Eli Abbott, Fred Abbott, George Abbott, Stanley Abbott, Otto Herbert Adams, William Adams, Augustus Alcott, Joseph Alexander, Walter E. Alexander, Israel Anderson, Joseph Andrews, Walter Andrews, Gilbert Antle, R. Gordon Armstrong, Chesley G. Arnold, Archibald Ash, John Joseph Aspel, George Atwood, Duncan Atwell, James Atwell, Ezekiel Avery, Edward Alphonsus Eyre, Eric S. Eyre, Gerald Walker Eyre, Wilford Douglas Eyre, Arthur Badcock, Esau Baker, George Baker, Nero Baker, Gilbert Baldwin, Henry Herbert Baldwin, Uriah Baldwin, Matthias Ball, Arthur George Ballum, Ralph Norman Balsam, Samuel Brambury, Horatio Barber, Lester D. Barber, Wilford Henley Barber, John C. Barnes, Lawrence Barnes, Maxwell Barnes, William Edward Barnes, Harold George Barrett, Leonard Joshua Barrett, Daniel Barrow, Alexander Bartlett, Joseph Patrick Bartlett, Rupert W. Bartlett, William Washer Bartlett, John Barton, Albert Chesley Vasto, Frederick D. Vasto, Gordon C. Vasto, Herbert Belbin, Herbert John Belbin, Stewart Bellows, James A. Bendel, Rance Benger, Charles Bennett, Chesley Bennett, Edward Bennett, Hector Bennett, James Bennett, Peter Francis Bennett, William Bennett, William Bennett, Benjamin Benoit, Peter Benoit, Walter Benoit, William J. Benson, Wilson Benson, Patrick Benson, Frank Gordon Best, Edward Bewley, Archibald Walter Bishop, Caleb Golding Bishop, George H. Bishop, Wilson Bishop, Herbert William Blackall, Edgar Blackmore, Thomas Blagden, John Blake, Zachariah Blake, George Blandford, Michael John Blythe, Matthew Bobbitt, Patrick J. Boland, George Edward Bollard, Joseph Boone, Stephen M. Boone, Stewart Malcolm Boone, John